Satkoviak. We are back in the Midwest tonight, and for our last week of the Spring Spotlight series, just a one for you guys tonight. We were talking Notre Dame tonight, since we normally don't go on Wednesdays, and we want to go to bed early. We'll be back for our final episode tomorrow night, talking Washington and Wisconsin to wrap up the Big Ten portion of our programming. I can't talk already, man. We're off to a good start. Clinton, how are you tonight?
Doing really good, man. I'm just tired. Got limited sleep last night. Went to bed. We watched this movie called The Guilty. Have you ever heard of it?
I have not.
Jake Gyllenhaal. So,
maybe I've seen a commercial or something.
quick rundown of it. He's a cop who gets in trouble, so he gets sent essentially to like the 911 line. So he's answering calls, funneling them wherever they are, because you never really know. I think they must be in California. There's wildfires. And he ends up getting this call of a woman who's abducted. And so that's kind of like what the whole premise of the story is. And you kind of learn about why he got sent to being on the phone line anyways. And it literally is just him the entire time. You're just looking at him on this phone call, like in back and forth with this phone call and like battling his demons. Sometimes he goes to the bathroom. You get like 2 bathroom shots. Is looking at the mirror because he has asthma. And so he changes rooms. It keeps going. But long story short, it's not the best movie in the world, but I was thoroughly impressed with how entertained it kept me when all I did was watch Jake Gyllenhaal sit on a headset and talk through multiple phone calls about this distress situation. And I'm just, Leah and I looked at each other and we're done. Like, that was pretty solid for what you got when there's nothing else happening. You're just watching it. Like, it had your heart going. It had you in the feels in certain parts. I'm like, and Gyllenhaal is one of the directors of it. And I'm like, that was pretty damn good. So again, if you ever watch it, it's called The Guilty, 2021. I believe it is on Netflix. It's not going to blow your doors off, guys. But it's a solid movie from the aspect of thinking that all you're doing is looking at Jake Gyllenhaal talk on a phone essentially the whole time.
That sounds like a quintessential Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Like, we're just going to look at him the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, he's a handsome guy. It is not the Day After Tomorrow. I love The Day After Tomorrow. This is my favorite post-apocalyptic movie. But anyway, so I stayed up too late, didn't fall asleep till 11:45 at least, and then got up at 5 to lift. I actually set my alarm for 5:05 so I could try to get 5 extra minutes of sleep, and then I woke up at like 4:45, so it didn't work. I'm fucking tired. Ryan, I'm ready to listen to you talk, so how are you doing? Hopefully your voice is working well.
Good-ish. I'm tired of playing hockey. I'm just over it.
Hang them up, man. You're 34.
Well, I'm not going to hang them up. I would just like our good players to actually show up.
That would be fair.
We normally don't play Monday. We played 3 games in 4 nights, and we got our shit kicked in the last 2 games. It was bad.
Uh-oh.
And it's bad because we do like you check in on the app so like everyone knows who's coming, and I can look at the app and just based on who's coming can tell whether or not we are going to get smoked or not. And I knew going into last night, I'm like, this isn't going to go well. And we lost 7-0. It was great.
Oh boy.
I was pissed. I'm not good. Like, I'm good if our good players show up because they take the attention away and then I can just kind of float around. If I'm like the only one out there skating, we're fucked. And that was kind of what the last 2 nights have been. So my legs hurt. I'm tired. My ego's a little fucking bruised, but whatever. We have playoffs next Saturday. I'm sure we're going to get our asses kicked again, but whatever.
How long of the break is once playoffs done?
I think the next season starts in May, which is fine because I need a couple of weeks. I'm just sore.
Are you the oldest person out there?
No, God, no. I'm one of the younger people on the team.
Oh, God. Okay. I wonder how these other blokes feel then.
I don't think they hate losing as much as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not like psychotic about it. Like, I'm not like smashing shit in the locker room, like MFing people or anything. But I just will drive home in silence. Like, I fucking hate losing. It's so.
Were you that way with the NCAA football dynasty too when you lose?
No, because I feel like the games that I lost, I figured I was going to lose, but there was like 2 of them that were kind of dumb and I got really pissed about it, but I'm on my official, I'm not playing this game anymore from that.
Yep.
Like, I will pick it up again once the new one comes out. I'm
Hell
just
yeah.
I'm not in football mood right now.
I texted Zach because I was supposed to have the head-to-head with the guy who's Ohio State when all that weird shit started happening. Like, dude, I just can't right now. This shit already makes my blood pressure boil at certain points, and I don't know what's going on, and I don't need blood pressure rising because of a video game. And to be honest, I love the game, and I feel bad because I left halfway through the season, but it feels so nice to have a break. I mean, I
It just
absolutely
got
love it when we're playing it in football
yeah.
season and kind of like maybe a little bit after, but it's been really nice just to have a break. Like, other than this podcast, I don't have any extra stuff to do now. I just kind of hang out
Yeah,
with Leah
that's
when the kids go to bed, and it's very
mhm.
nice.
Yes.
But I will be ready
agree.
come July. I owe Kevin a couple games to where I am focused and not unfocused, getting my ass kicked. So I will be back. We need to be in the same conference next year if we can.
It got too big for me. Like, there was just too much going on at the end.
There's a lot.
There's
I
too
don't
many
think we will
people.
have 24 next year. I
It's,
bet we'll
it's
be
too
back
many
around
people.
like 16.
I think
Would
that's
be
a
my
good number.
guess.
That's a good
17,
number.
something like that.
I
We're also
can't
going to do a
do
better disbursement of drafts. I told Zach that you can't have 10 people select the Big 10 at first and then have the Big 12 have 2 people. Like,
Yeah.
you got to have like 4 to 5 per conference.
Yeah.
So make it a better disbursement. And then if you do have 24 people, your conferences are at least even.
Yeah.
You have 5 people essentially per conference, and that works nicely. So, anyways,
Anyway.
side tangents.
No kidding.
We just love football, folks. We love football.
We are talking Notre Dame tonight, the one non-Big Ten representative in our spring spotlight series. Clinton, 10-2 for the Irish in 2025. They did not have an opportunity to make a run to the national championship game after they
Could have won the Pop-Tarts Bowl, though.
were chicaned out of a playoff spot. Wow, no pun intended there. That was funny.
Yeah.
Chicaned.
Canes.
I did not mean to do that. This is going to be a fascinating spring, mostly because of my rooting interest. But looking at this team heading into 2026, how they use 2025 as a springboard, what they're losing, what they're bringing back. They bring back a lot, Clinton, but what they don't bring back is potentially the best player in college football in Jeremyiah Love. They're not bringing back another NFL running back in Jadarian Price. And those are 2 big losses from this team. And that's kind of the first thing that I am looking at here is the running game in general and what it's going to look like next year. And the question that I have is, this was a generational backfield in 2025. I think that term gets thrown around a little too loosely sometimes. This is not me saying that Jeremyiah Love is a generational NFL running back prospect, because I don't think that's...
I think he might be. There are many people saying, Ryan, he is by far the best player in this draft. Him and Caleb Downs.
So yes, but also, like, to me, generational is like Calvin Johnson. Like, you're coming out and you are the best player at your position for like 7 to 10 drafts. And I don't know that he's better than Bijan Robinson. He could be, and I wouldn't be surprised. But like, we're talking like, we're like, what, 3-4 years removed from that? Can't really call someone generational when there was someone who was equally as good 4 years ago. But in terms of the Notre Dame running backfield, they've been really good there the last decade. This is a position that they've recruited and developed well. And you look like going back, Josh Adams, whose career in the NFL didn't really pan out. Audric Estime, who's in the NFL, but not maybe at the level I thought he was going to be. Kyron Williams is one of the best running backs in the NFL. Like, they've had a good run at this position. He's better than all of them. He is, I don't think it's a stretch to say, the best running back in Notre Dame history, which, again, we're talking about the entirety of the program. That is saying something. Jadarian Price, I think, is a guy that if Jeremyiah Love was not in this backfield last year, we would be talking about him as, is this guy going to be the first running back taken in the NFL draft? He is that good as well. So you're losing those 2 players. The running game is going to take a step back. But the question I have is, can the running game be similarly effective as the sum of its parts? So what I mean by that is, last year, I feel like it's Groundhog Day with this conversation around the Notre Dame offensive line. I feel every single year we come into this saying, this has the potential to be one of the best lines in the nation, and it seems like for the last 3 years they have failed to live up to that expectations. That's not to say that they're bad. They just haven't been good enough. I have a chart here pulled up. I was thinking about this last week, and I finally got around to Googling it. So this is from Parker Fleming on Twitter, not Ohio State special teams coach Parker Fleming or whatever he's doing with his life these days. This is Statso War on Twitter, one of the best accounts, I think, on Twitter for advanced college football stats, if you are so inclined to look at that. So the graphic here, caption to it is one way to evaluate running games in college football is to compare scheme and offensive line, which is yards before contact, with running back ability, which is yards after contact. So let's say scatter plot. On the x-axis is yards before contact per rush. On the y-axis is yards after contact per rush. So the thought here being the further right a team is, the better the offensive line, and the higher on the graph this team is, the better the running game is. Looking at this graph, there are 4 teams who averaged more than 4 yards per contact after rush last year. It was Louisiana Monroe, go figure, Virginia Tech, go figure, UNLV, go figure, and Notre Dame. Those were the 4 teams in college football. Notre Dame is smack dab in the middle of the x-axis on this. So it was a pretty average offensive line performance from Notre Dame in the run game last year. And despite that, they still were 3rd in the country in 5.7 yards per carry. I think they finished 12th nationally in yards per game. They had an elite running game without having an elite offensive line, which is very difficult to do. Now you don't have 2 elite running backs. So unless the offensive line takes a big step forward, you're not going to have an elite running game this year. The running back room is still in a pretty good spot. They have a guy who should be the starter coming into summer camp, Aeneas Williams. He's a little limited in spring with an elbow injury. He's a guy who played well as a freshman. We saw him a lot in third down situations. He was good catching passes out of the backfield. He made a couple big catches in the Orange Bowl against Penn State to kind of kickstart things in the second half for the Irish offense. He had the elbow injury last year in camp. He was a little limited by that, but he was more so limited by running back coach Jawan Sider having this thought process where he's only playing 2 guys, which I don't understand when you have a deep running back room, but he kind of got lost in the shuffle with that last year. When he came in mop-up duty, again, it was mop-up duty. You're not playing the starters, and they weren't playing the best teams down the stretch, but he still popped. He was still getting big runs. I think I got the stats pulled up right here. He finished last season, Clinton, with 24 carries, 224 yards. That's 9.3 yards per carry. He had 5 touchdowns. So he's breaking runs against inferior competition. So he has that ability. He doesn't have the big play ability, though, of Jeremyiah Love and Jadarian Price. Where I think this Notre Dame running game can be similar, again, this is not me saying they're going to be the same. They're going to be as explosive. But where I think they can make up a lot of ground is with the offensive line. They lose 2 starters to the draft, and I think it's rare where you're sitting here in spring saying, well, our offensive line is losing a 2-year starter at left guard and 2-year starter at right tackle. I think the offensive line might be better this year, but I think that's a spot where we're in with this team, Clinton. The offensive line struggled last year with the preseason injury of right guard Charles Jagisa, who he's entering his 4th year at Notre Dame. He has played, I think, 4 games for Notre Dame because he can't stop getting hurt. Broke his proximal humerus in a UTV accident 4th of July weekend last year, and he has had, Clinton, 5 surgeries since then because he had a bone infection that was not healing, and it took them forever to figure out why his bone wasn't healing. So it's probably not going to be a guy.
What was the reason? Did they say?
What do you mean? What?
Why his bone wasn't healing? Did they say why?
Yeah, he had an infection.
Okay, missed that part. My bad.
He had an open humeral fracture when he fell off a UTV and landed, I'm assuming, in a muddy pit or something in buttfuck Wyoming. Probably not the best medical care there.
You can lose your job in the NFL for dumb shit like that.
That's true. There was a lot of discourse. There was a lot of discourse around this at the time, but I digress. So this is a guy that they're probably not going to be able to count on this year. There is some optimism that the bone is healing now after the 5th surgery. But they're going to be replacing right tackle Emil Wagner. He was a 2-year starter. He was a perfectly fine pass protector, but I don't think he was particularly great in the run game. Slotting out wide is going to be Gerby Lambert, who played last year at right guard, mostly out of necessity because of the Jagisa injury, but his long-term future has been projected at tackle. He has slid there in spring and is looking pretty good. Replacing him at guard is going to be Sullivan Absher, very likely, unless Jagisa makes a miraculous recovery in summer. But Absher was kind of the 6th lineman, kind of the swing guy last year. Center Joe Otting played pretty well after Ashton Craig tore his ACL again. When Craig comes back healthy, he will likely be the starter, but Otting played pretty well for him. The left side of the offensive line, Clinton, is going to be the most interesting aspect because you have two-year starter at left tackle, Anthony Knapp, who, when he was recruited, many people thought he was going to slide inside and be a guard. But he started at left tackle out of necessity as a true freshman 2 years ago because Charles Jagisa tore his pec the first day of preseason camp. I'm sensing a theme here. In spring, he is sliding inside to guard because they have redshirt freshman 5-star offensive tackle Will Black. They're giving him every opportunity to win that job, and it sounds like he is going to win it. So you are going into this season having two first-time starters at tackle, but you don't have your two toughest games to start the season this year. You have some time to gel as an offensive line, and Clinton, I think there is a chance that if Lambert and Black play up to their potential and grow, by the time they get to that big game against BYU on October 17th, we could be talking about those two as potentially one of the best tackle combinations in college football. It's a tall task. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but they certainly have the talent to do that. And if they are able to do that, this is going to be an offensive line that's going to remind me a little bit about that 2017 offensive line, which is probably a little unfair to them because they had Quentin Nelson who was eating people's faces. But that was a running game that was outstanding. You had 2 months of Josh Adams Heisman hype until they got boat raced by Miami, and Josh Adams was just an okay college running back. That was a running game that was a product of the offensive line, and I think there's a chance, Clinton, this year. I might be Charlie Brown with the football talking about this. And the Notre Dame offensive line is going to be really good this year. But I think there is a chance that Notre Dame continues to have an elite running game on the strength of a fantastic offensive line and still capable running backs in the backfield.
My biggest thing, and I have this question about your running backs and your wide receiver group, but on a scale of 1 to 10, Ryan, what is your confidence level in this running back group? 1 being absolutely no confidence, 10 being you're through the roof, fully confident.
I would say 7. I like Williams a lot. I think he's going to be a capable college running back. He reminds me a little bit of Kyron Williams, just from a skill set standpoint. Like, he's not going to blow you away physically, but he's good at everything. And if he can stay healthy, I think that's a good 1A running back. They really like Nolan James, a redshirt freshman. He is smaller from a height standpoint. He's like 5'9", but he is thick in the lower body and he's a little bit quicker, more explosive. We talked last week about USC's tandem of freshman running backs they brought in, but Notre Dame has a pretty good freshman tandem as well in Jonas Walton and Javian Osborne. Osborne out for the spring with a scaphoid fracture, which is a little bit of a bummer for him. He had an opportunity to really solidify himself. And then the X factor in the room is Kedron Young, who is a tank. He is a body type that they otherwise have not had since Estime. I think he's 6 foot. He was 240 when he tore his ACL in summer camp last year. I think he's down to 225 now. So that's still a big guy. And if he can come in healthy in spring, that is 5 really capable running backs. The difference in this running back room is going to be last year, if you had a hole with Jeremyiah Love and Jadarian Price, it was going to be a touchdown. Now it might just be a 30-yard gain because they don't have that same type of athlete in the backfield yet, right? Like, I think it's easy to forget that Jadarian Price was like a top 200 player. He wasn't this all-world recruit. And even Jeremyiah Love was a top 75 player, which is pretty good for a running back, but it's not like, Savion Hyder coming in as a 5-star back. Like, he wasn't this can't-miss prospect coming in. He grew into that as a player. So they have good prospects in the room. I think it should still be fine.
I think just from my own personal experience watching like a Henderson and Judkins leave 2 years ago to then coming in with what Ohio State was bringing in this year, like you're not going to Notre Dame fans, and I think they'll be more level-headed, hopefully, some of them about this, is you're not going to match Love in Price. It's just not going to happen. That doesn't mean your room on the whole can't be deeper and more improved, but you're not going to match what those two studs did last year. It's damn near impossible. You never say never, right? But there's about a 99% chance you're not matching that. So tempering expectations to come into that, and you can still find some really damn talented backs that you can enjoy. Obviously, I feel like Williams was 2 years ago that had such an impact, and then last year you didn't really notice it as much.
Yep, there was not an opportunity for him.
Price and Love were just leading the way. Thank you, Price, for helping me win my college fantasy championship. But I'm intrigued to see where this running back room goes, and damn, I wish the Bengals could take Jeremyiah Love at 10.
I don't think he's going to fall that far.
No.
But speaking of wide receivers, Clinton, that is the second question that I have about this team, because You need a game breaker to step up. You had it in the backfield this year. I really think you're going to need it in the wide receiver room. I think CJ Carr is probably the best returning starting quarterback that Notre Dame has had since Brady Quinn in 2006. No disrespect to 2009 Jimmy Clausen and 2016 Deshaun Kaiser before that season went completely off the rails. This was a stat from Pete Sampson, though. The one concern I have about maybe the passing game is last year CJ Carr was really good because he was able to exploit defenses who were game planning to stop the running game. He had 37 dropbacks last year, Clinton, against 2 high safeties, cover 2. That is an astonishingly low number. You are not going to see that this year because now you are going to be the guy that teams are game planning to stop because they don't have that same reason to fear your running game, which is another reason why you need someone to step up, right? You need to take a little bit of load off the passing game, but a way to take a load off your quarterback is to have a wide receiver step up. They lost a lot from this receiving room, which you don't really think about it off the top of your head. You're like, oh, they didn't lose a ton last year, but they lost their second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth leading receivers from a yardage standpoint last year. Malachi Fields, Eli Reardon, and Will Pauling off to the NFL. Jeremyiah Love, the fifth leading receiver. We just talked about him. KK Smith was sixth on the team, only 123 yards last year. He's at Michigan State now in the transfer portal. The good news, though, you bring back leading pass catcher, or your leading receiver in terms of pass catches and receptions in Jordan Faison, 49 catches for 640 yards last year, which is kind of embarrassingly one of the better Notre Dame receiving seasons we've had the last 5 years. He is not playing lacrosse this spring. He is fully focused on football, and he has that quick twitch. Maybe he's not like the same straight line speed, but he's really quick and shifty. He has, I think, the ability to be a 1,000-yard receiver this year. But this is also the deepest, most talented wide receiver room they've had in the Marcus Freeman era. They think they have about 14 guys on this roster on scholarship who could legitimately play at the college level. That is a far cry from the middle of the 2013 season when they had 3 healthy guys. We talked about Faison. There are 2 big X factors in this room. One is Jaden Greathouse. He did nothing last year after bursting onto the scene in the 2024 playoff with 100-yard receiving games against Penn State and Ohio State. Expectations were sky high for him last year. He did not do a damn thing through 4 games, and then he missed the last 8 with a hamstring injury, which he's still kind of dealing with right now. I don't think it's as severe, but there has been talk about a little bit of tweak in the hamstring in spring that's been limiting him. So that's a little concerning. But if he can stay healthy, if he can develop that chemistry with Carr, this is a guy who has shown that he can produce at a college football playoff level. That's an incredible asset to have in your room. And then I think, Clinton, the true X factor in this room is going to be wide receiver transfer Mylan Graham. He looks like a guy that they have not had since Will Fuller. He is fast. He is explosive. He moves differently. And I've seen practice highlights, like they'll throw out those little snippets, and it's just him making incredible catches. So the knock on him, and you've talked about this a little bit before, was not the best practice habits, not necessarily a willing blocker. We'll find out a little bit more about the willing blocker thing as we get closer to the season, but it sounds like he's kind of turned around the practice habits. And if again, I don't want Ohio State fans jumping on me saying, well, he didn't do it here, he's never going to do it, blah, blah, blah. This is a big if he can develop those practice habits, if that transfer was a wake-up call, right? Like Carnell Tate got hurt last year and he still wasn't really given an opportunity. They rather would play 2 tight ends and someone named David Adolph than you. If that's a wake-up call for him, this could be a huge boon for Notre Dame where you get that Jamison Williams type transfer where a guy doesn't get the opportunity at Ohio State because of the loaded receiver room. He goes somewhere else, he gets the opportunity, and he explodes. If he can put it all together, this could be a massive addition for the Irish, and it's something that I think they desperately need in the pass game this year.
The key of changing the portals this year is not having the spring one, so that Notre Dame got the chance to get Graham in now to already start building chemistry with Carr, which I think is huge. Versus, let's say Graham decided to, if we still had that second portal in, what was it, end of April or whatever, Graham decides to stick it out at Ohio State through this spring portion to see, hey, where am I kind of at in the pecking order? Oh, I'm not really where I want to be. Now I'm going to go. Well, then you just lost 3 to 4 months worth of work with your starting quarterback. So absolute huge there. And there's a lot of Ohio State fans I've seen that are bitter that Graham and Porter left. Some are like, good riddance, we don't care, you didn't play, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Best of luck to those 2 guys. I hope they do a damn good job for Notre Dame. They deserve it. They're good players. They've earned a chance. But you already mentioned my biggest qualm with Graham is blocking and practice effort. You have to change those habits, or remember, you're not going from 5-star Ohio State program to down 71 to Cincinnati, not knocking the Bearcats, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to another 5-star caliber program. You will not play again. And then
Yep.
you will be going to Sam Houston State for your next stop to play.
Yep.
You have to have the better effort because I remember watching the spring game last year. Mylan Graham was everywhere, man. I think I even talked to you
Mm-hmm.
about this in the spring show last year. I'm like, I'm pumped for Mylan
Mm-hmm.
Graham. This is the year he gets his chance to have an impact on this offense. And then I'm sitting here watching mid to late season, like,
Where'd
where's
he
this
go?
white dude David Adolph come from? Who the fuck is this guy? And no disrespect to the young man there, he clearly worked his butt off to get himself on the field in those instances. But as an Ohio State fan, you're sitting here worried, like, why is Graham not playing? Especially if we're going to try to make this Big Ten championship and playoff run. Like, that was a guy you were to bank on. I know you mentioned earlier when we were talking about, but it was probably the Ohio State episode. What's the latest update on Porter and his timeline for return? Do we know?
I think he should be back for summer, but he is limited in spring. I.e.,
Yep,
I think he's working out, but I don't think he's practicing.
certainly. So the other big thing I think where you see a guy like Porter kind of leave Ohio State was that Chris Henry Jr. is essentially slotted into the spot he was going to have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that he's not talented enough to be at Ohio State, and he's certainly talented enough to be there and Notre Dame, but he gets an absolute shot, hopefully, if this shoulder and everything can go, for him to prove himself and earn that 1A, 1B role. We'll see if he can accomplish that this year. It's obviously a disappointment if he comes into this and then spends another year kind of not necessarily riding pine, but not getting himself in with the new hope that he had. But future is bright there for him to have opportunities next year if needed. But those are the two big ones I'm most excited to see how it pans out, obviously, because of the ties with Ohio State. But when you have an experienced quarterback now with a full year of starting in Carr, that will be extremely beneficial for this just Irish receiving room overall. I remember you were hot on some of the silly errors that Carr would make last year, and you're hoping to come in and see this year that obviously doesn't happen with a full year under your belt.
And then lastly, just talking about the defense real quick here. The secondary should be among the best in the nation. If it's not the best in the nation, I would be shocked. You have the best cornerback in the nation in Leonard Moore. I think there is a chance that we are talking about Tay Johnson as the best safety in college football by the end of the season. He looks like a fucking freak playing center field back there in spring practice. He is going to be really good this year. The linebacking room, just a little bit of questions about health with Kingston Viliamuasa coming off a late season ACL tear, and Drake Bowen had offseason hip surgery, but that's a deep and experienced room. The question I have is how can this defensive line mesh together given what they lost, particularly on the interior? This is kind of the wide receiver room of the defensive side of the ball, Clinton, where there is a shitload of talent, but there's not a lot of production. You have Boubacar Traore coming back. He tore his ACL in 2024. Came back in about 9 months. Very impressive. He led the team with 6.5 sacks last year. I think he is primed to have a monster explosive year this year. But behind him, it's more theory than actual production, and that's talking about both at end and on the interior. You have Bryce Young, who was fantastic as a freshman. They bulked him up to be kind of more of a strong side end as a sophomore. He's 6'7". They got him up to 280, and he didn't have that same level of explosiveness, and he kind of struggled with that extra weight. He's down to 260 again, and it sounds like he is explosive again. That could be a fearsome 1-2 rush duo off the edge. The prodigal son returns, Clinton. Keon Keeley, the former top 10 overall recruit in the class of 24, a one-time Notre Dame commit who went to Alabama to be with Nick Saban. Nick Saban retired. The new Alabama staff tried to bulk him up to be a strong side end up to 280, and he didn't really handle that weight well. He came on a little bit towards the end of last year, but he said it sounds like they're going to slim him down a little bit to get that explosiveness back. That is an exciting trio of rush ends. In normal Notre Dame off seasons, we'd be talking a lot more about five-star freshman Rodney Dunham, who has come in and is already gaining effusive praise from Chris Ash as an early enrollee freshman, and he's going to be a rotational piece at best, which is great news if you're a Notre Dame fan. They did pretty well getting after the quarterback last year, 36 sacks. I think their sack rate was 27th in the nation, and this was a really good run defense last year. I want to say 12th in the nation, allowing 100 yards per game, but a lot of the interior is gone. Gabe Rubio and Jared Dawson both out of eligibility. Donovan Heinisch had to medically retire due to shoulder and or concussion issues. So they went after the portal hard here, bringing in Francis Brew from Pitt, who was sensational as a freshman last year. Not a big guy, I think 6'2", 300 pounds, but impressive strength numbers in the weight room. So he more than is capable of holding that point of attack. They also bring in Tion Gray from Oregon, a much bigger body, 6'4", 330 pounds. And I think the X factor in this room is going to be redshirt freshman Chris Burgess. He came in as a strong side end. He has bulked up. He is 6'4", 300 pounds. So there are a lot of exciting prospects on the interior of this line and the edge of this line. And it sounds like from practice reports, right, it's kind of hard to gather how everyone is playing when you're not necessarily seeing full practice. You're just kind of seeing not in full pads and positional work. But at least from a body type, the just kind of word is these are guys with length that Notre Dame has not had before, and there are a lot of them. Some might call it an SEC level defensive line. So with a fantastic secondary, a really good linebacking core, if this defensive line can be excellent in 2025, 2026, what year are we in? Notre Dame might have the best defense in college football this year, and that's an exciting prospect to think about.
Just looking at, you can tease out DE and DT in ways that you want, but what do you think is the weakest unit on the Notre Dame defense? The thing that could possibly give them trouble when they're playing in some of their bigger matchups.
I would just say defensive tackle because we haven't seen it yet. In theory, I like the guys that they have there, but Burgess didn't play at all last year. I don't think Gray played a ton at Oregon. Brew was really good. But from like an experienced standpoint on what they're bringing back, Jason Onye comes back. He gets a 6th year. He was good last year, but more as a rotational guy. And then USC transfer Elijah Hughes, who they brought in just to be more of a depth guy, and actually ended up playing pretty well. That's really the returning experience they have on the interior. So I like what they have. I don't know how good it's going to be in the game. And again, like we talk about the schedule, like Wisconsin's going to try to run the ball at you for sure. Especially with Colton Joseph in the run game. That's going to be a challenge.
Who we get to talk about tomorrow.
But the schedule plays out a lot nicer than it did last year, right? You don't have your two biggest challenges in week 1 and week 3 as your first 2 games of the year. You have half a season to build up to BYU, and you have 8 games to build up to Miami. You know, we've talked about this in the past with Michigan in 23, with Ohio State in 24, maybe a little bit with Penn State last year before the wheels kind of fell off for them. It's a 2-game season for Notre Dame. They're probably going to be favored in every game, but looking at this schedule, unless an injury happens or somebody like comes on that we're not expecting, there are 2 teams on this schedule who are capable of realistically beating them without them just completely shooting themselves in the face. And that would be BYU. And I'm only saying that because it's at BYU. I think there's a lot of questions around BYU, especially with the wide receiver who just got kicked off the team because he got arrested for felony rape. And Miami's coming to Notre Dame, but that's going to be a Miami team that's still really good. So you got time to figure it out, but if there's something does go wrong for this defense this year, just looking at it right now, like injuries aside again, I would anticipate it being that the defensive tackles don't play up to the level that we're expecting them.
And Ryan, you are active on Twitter and you follow Notre Dame stuff a lot. Can this Notre Dame team in 2026 cash all the checks that this fan base has written for them this offseason?
They're talented enough.
There's a ton, man. There's a
ton. They're talented enough, but the thing that worries me is I feel like the 3 times in my lifetime when there's been expectations around this team, they just have not met them.
Yep.
Like 2026.
How you doing, man? Appreciate
or 2026, Jesus Christ. 2006, that team was supposed to be a national title contender with Brady Quinn and the receivers coming back, and the defense was so bad that it sunk all of it. The year after, they went to the national title game in 2013. I don't know that was necessarily supposed to be a great year, but they were not very good. After the year they had in 2015, they came back and followed it up by going 4-8. I mean, it feels like year after year, whenever there's expectations, it just always ends up
barring
being
crazy injuries. Marcus Freeman's not letting this team go 4-8. Ain't happening.
No, not that, but also
if he goes 4-8 with this schedule this year, you should probably fire him.
Yeah, well, but then that's the thing about Marcus Freeman too, right? It's like he's shown that this program is different, that the the ceiling that we've known under Brian Kelly is not the ceiling we've known under him, but we've also seen him have just an inexplicable brain dead loss in really all three of his seasons. I mean, I would classify that Texas A&M loss, the way the defense played in that game, as an inexplicable brain dead loss.
Yeah.
We thought Texas A&M had an elite offense last year because of that game, and they did not. So yeah, this team has not, until they can show that they are capable of not shitting their pants against a vastly inferior opponent, like that's always going to be in the back of your mind. So,
all right, last one for me. CJ Carr and his Heisman hype. Where are you at with it, Ryan? Because I'm seeing a lot, not just Notre Dame fans, but national pundits backing Carr as the Heisman favorite right now.
I like it from the schedule standpoint. I don't like it from the he's going to have to prove that he can be the guy who wins the game for you and doesn't necessarily have to be the facilitator, right? Like I was reading, Pete Sampson just does great work, described him like he was a point guard last year. He had to facilitate the offense because he had a fantastic running game. Now he has to be more of a guy who is taking control and shooting the ball, because they're going to need to make more plays in the pass game because you don't have that same level of running game backing you up. Mm-hmm. Is he capable of doing it? I certainly think so. Like, I think he has the football IQ and all the physical tools. But I also remember watching him against USC, and granted there was a rainstorm there, but Jadarian handled that pretty well, and he had a terrible game against USC because he couldn't figure out the two high safeties. So that's
Jeremyiah love.
That's true. And thank God USC just decided they didn't want to stop him. But that's going to be a learning curve that he's going to have to overcome.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I think it pairs well for you guys. You and I have talked about it. If it's 10-2, 9-3, it feels like a missed opportunity. Right. You have to capitalize this year.
This is a season, and I know we talked a little bit about it last year, like 10-2 felt like worst case scenario. If this team does anything less than 11-1, it's a disappointment.
Darian Mensah will be a challenge.
Yes.
That will be fun with him and Malachi Toney.
Yes.
But Miami's defense is losing a ton, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, we went a little long. I knew we were going to do that. That is all for Notre Dame talk. We will be back tomorrow night, 8:45, 9-ish Eastern time, with our last two Spring Spotlight series. We are talking the W's, Washington and Wisconsin. Will be another fun conversation. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night.
See you guys.